Oxfam analysis of how climate change funds are allocated and accounted for shows trends for the world's poorest countries and communities which are a matter for concern. Climate Finance Shadow Report 2018 looks at the latest donor reports for 2015 and 2016 and finds that increases in climate finance are largely due to an upsurge in loans, especially to middle-income countries. Government grant money is not meeting needs and is not rising fast enough. Grants represent an estimated $11 to $13 billion, compared to $10 billion in the last assessment covering 2013 and 2014. Funding for adaptation continues to be neglected, making up only an estimated 20% of public climate finance, up from 19% in 2013 and 2014. The share of the pie going to least developed countries has not increased and remains at around 18% of public finance. Despite people in poor Caribbean islands staring down supercharged hurricanes and others in Africa reeling from brutal droughts, the money flowing to the world's poorest and most vulnerable to climate change remains woefully inadequate, said Tracy Carty, Oxfam's climate change policy expert. One of the major problems described in the report is how many donors overreport the value of the funds they are providing. One way is to exaggerate the climate change value of a development project where climate change is just one aspect of a broader program. Another involves counting loans and other types of non-grant financing at full face value, obscuring by a huge margin the actual level of assistance developing countries receive. Oxfam is urging governments to end this practice and count the grant equivalent of their climate loans, which means only counting the net transfer of finance to a developing country once repayments, interest and other factors are accounted for. The OECD recently agreed on similar standards for counting development aid. Counting the grant equivalent is quickly becoming the standard for aid spending. There's no reason why it shouldn't be the same for climate finance, said Carty. Oxfam estimates the net climate-specific public finance in 2015 and 2016 to be around $16 to $21 billion per year. This is significantly lower than the estimated $48 billion per year in public climate finance. If donor numbers are taken at face value, governments have to agree new accounting standards for climate finance under the Paris Agreement at this year's COP climate conference in Poland, said Carty. This is an opportunity to agree fair and robust standards that can't be missed. The Oxfam report also shows how much money different governments are providing as grants. While the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Sweden and others provided more than 90% of their climate finance in 2015 and 2016 as grants, France and others have fallen far behind. The shadow report shows that despite French President Emmanuel Macron claiming leadership on combating climate change, France's finance numbers tell a different story. Just 7% of the country's climate finance was given out as grants in 2015 and 2016, far below other neighboring countries. With only 2 years left before the $100 billion deadline in the eyes of millions in the developing world watching, we hope to see Macron's actions to financially support the world's poorest countries match his inspiring words, said Armel Lecote, Oxfam France's climate lead. Read the report Climate Finance Shadow Report 2018 here. Oxfam International https://www.oxfam.org/n/ekk/6